This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome, everyone, to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Pauline, and today there's a few things that we have to get into. I want to discuss basketball to start us off. We're kind of like in this dead period with basketball, so there's not much games, well, any games, really, going on in the NBA, but we have some trade talk to discuss. DeMarcus Cousins finally has really spoken out since his, we can say, epic trade that we discussed yesterday here in with Sacramento and the Pelicans, as well as what Vlade Divac said in regards to this too as well. So it's kind of interesting what's happening. I don't know. There's a lot of craziness happening here in Sacramento, but I guess that's what, this business is about, as well as, moving forward. And you get reminded every once in a while with trades like this or decisions like this that the NBA still is a business. And then later on, I want to get into what the commissioner has said about the NBA age limit and what his thoughts are, and perhaps what he's thinking about doing with the age limit as well. So there's a lot of things to get into. So first off, let's just start with this, kind of a wrap up of what we were discussing yesterday with Ben in regards to the Sacramento Kings and DeMarcus Cousins. So DeMarcus Cousins had a speech that he gave yesterday, Monday night, that was kind of like, I guess you could say kind of like a going away party type thing that he had. Now, set aside from DeMarcus on the court and the attitudes that we get on the court and the extraness that sometimes comes along with all that is DeMarcus Cousins, off the court and in the community, he did do a whole lot for the city and community of Sacramento, especially for the kids. That is one thing that no one, especially here in Sacramento, even if you don't like the Kings or don't like DeMarcus necessarily, that's something that you cannot take away from him as a player outside of the community. So this is a piece that he said in regards to kind of like his goodbye to Sacramento as he gets ready, as not really ready. It's already made up. The decision's already made up. But anyways, so this is a piece that he said, I quote, "My love for this city has never changed. My love for the city has never changed. Even though I'm gone, it'll still be the same. I'm still looking out for these kids. Every family in this city matters to me. Every soul in this city matters to me. Everything's the same. I'm just not in a Kings uniform anymore, which is okay because, the love is still here. It's still going to go on." So I thought that was very, very kind, and it does show his side, a side of DeMarcus that not a lot of people get to see, and especially you're not really going to see it as far as if you're only watching highlights of games and things like that. But this is something, an impact that he has had on our community for quite some time as being a Sacramento King with us. So definitely the community is going to miss him as a whole on and off the court. He was averaging 27.8 points and 10.6 rebounds per game this season. He's a 3-time All-Star. He did, just serve a 1-game suspension after having his 17th technical foul. So, like I said, there's a lot of good with a lot of bad that comes with him when it comes to the on-court DeMarcus Cousins experience. But the off-court experience is over, I think, is over more, is in more of abundance than what he does on the court. So definitely we're going to miss him in the community, but hopefully, if he's a man of his word, he's saying that he still, has a lot of love for the city of Sacramento as far as us as a community. So we'll see. I know that there are still some players that, regardless, after they retire, they get traded, whatever may have you, when they start these deep roots in communities, especially within the local community and with the children, they still oftentimes come back regardless, like if they have, a week-long summer camp that they always put on during the summer for the kids. A lot of times, even if they get traded, they continue to hold those summer camps continuing throughout the years in their, past cities that they've played for, because it's something that the kids look forward to. It's kind of what they give back to the communities that they have had a part in. So it's really nice to hear that from DeMarcus. Of course, I wouldn't be surprised if he had some choice words for the front office, but that's something completely different. And then in a shocker, speaking of the front office, so our man Vlade Divac, he played for the Sacramento Kings as well. He is now a part of the team again. For those of you who don't know, Vlade is now our vice president of operations and the general manager. So in a press conference, because there's been a lot of not explanations, but a lot of questions in regards to this past trade. Some people are very happy about it. Some people are on the fence, such as myself. I wasn't exactly thrilled about the trade, only because I just felt that we weren't getting much in return. But it's not, the whole situation with, this is his 17th technical foul, things like that. So, like I said, a lot does come with DeMarcus Cousins, but Vlade did have some words to say in regards to this trade and kind of like his response to all the speculation. Now, what kind of threw me off was there was a clip that Vlade Divac did say that earlier last week there was actually a better offer for DeMarcus, and he chose not to disclose what the better offer could have or would have been, but that they were basically going to get rid of DeMarcus sometime during this little trade situation that we have going on, but that this particular trade with the Pelicans wasn't exactly the best offer that they had. I'm really interested to see, because I agree. I feel like it's not we didn't really get anything in return for DeMarcus's worth, but this is what Vlade had to say. So it was, and I quote Vlade Divac on this as well, "It was time for a change, and I decided this was the best direction for the organization. Winning begins with culture, and character matters. With the upcoming draft class set to be one of the strongest in a decade, this trade will allow us to build the depth needed for a talented and developing roster moving forward. We thank DeMarcus for his contributions and wish him all the best in New Orleans. The fans in Sacramento are the best in the world, and we are all committed to bringing a team that will continue to make Sacramento proud." So they are working towards building us a better roster here. I'm hoping that it happens. I feel like they always tell us this. So we will see just exactly what they have in the works, and hopefully they make some good decisions come this this draft, and that we will not be as disappointed, and that this will all blow over. And hindsight's always 2020. So hopefully soon we will see what all of this was about. So anyways, with that, I am going to take it to our first break, and when we come back, we have a little bit more to discuss in the NBA, as well as some other things around the world of sports. So keep it locked here. You are listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Oh, that got a little bit jumbled up on my lip. But anyway, so you're listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. I will be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Pauline, and to wrap up kind of this piece on the NBA, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the NCAA before moving on to other sports as well. But anyway, so the current NBA age limit is 19. So a lot of players, that's why we have a lot of these one and done players. They go to college before you could go straight out of high school to the pros. Now you have at least 1 year of college, that 19-year-old age limit. So you go to college for a year knowing very well that you're not staying there any longer than a year, especially when you go to these huge powerhouses that are cranking out athletes, cranking out ball players on a consistent basis. And you go to college for a year, you declare for the draft, you go pro. So and that was something that was established back in 2006, that age limit of 19. So it's been about, it's 2017, so going on 11 years now. But there is now, the commissioner is now wanting to up that age limit to 20. Now, there's speculation on both sides when it comes to this decision, this point, this perhaps change that could come as early as 2017, like with the collective bargaining agreement that could get renegotiated. So the thing is, so there's two sides of it. There's the side that, okay, a lot of these guys do just go to they literally just go to college just because they have to. And the NCAA president, Mark Emmert, he did say that, that's a fundamental problem, that, they're not taking their education seriously because that's just kind of like a stepping stone. He called it a base, a place to touch base just so that they can launch themselves into the NBA. And I kind of agree with that because, they don't take it as seriously because, that's not their end goal. So it's kind of a waste of money. But the reason why that they feel it's not a waste of money is because there's a lot of benefits in having the age limit being pushed up for the NCAA. So one, you're having these superstar, all-star, high caliber ball players staying for now an extra year. So that's going to bring in revenue just because if you have a squad made up of guys that are going to be future professionals and future great professionals in the league playing on your college team, and you guys are going into the NCAA tournament. See, now the NCAA, you get money back. And for those of you who don't know, your squad, your team, your school gets paid a lot of money to make these NCAA tournament appearances, and let alone go deep into the NCAA. So they're making hundreds of millions of dollars annually just from the NCAA tournament. Okay, so that brings in a lot of money. And then these big name basketball schools, Kentucky, Duke, Louisville, teams like that are bringing in tens of millions of dollars in revenue each year just from NCAA basketball. So just from college basketball. So, you're able to extend that longer if you're able to keep guys longer, because you get the tournament money, you get the TV money, and things like that. And then at the same side of that is the NBA gets to watch these guys for an extra year without having to pay them. You do lessen the risk of, investing a whole lot in a very, very young kid before seeing him play at a higher caliber level than from high school. Because if you pick up a guy straight from high school who does very, very well in high school and is a phenom in high school, but then you throw him into the college arena for a year or two, you're able to really evaluate how he will be, and his, you could take a look into his potential by matching him up against other great ball players at the college level. And then for the NBA, that's really good because they can watch them at that collegiate level before actually investing in them and seeing, okay, are you worth all the hype? Or, you were great in high school, but were you just a big fish in a little pond, or can you really hold your own weight? So that saves the NBA a lot of money because you're not offering these major contracts to these young rookies, or young guys, 17, 18 years old. And then also, so I don't know if I don't think it has anything to do with wanting them to receive more of a college education. I think it has 1,000% just because of the money wise, and it does kind of go in favor for both the NBA and the NCAA as far as money wise is concerned. It's cheaper for the NBA and it's bringing in a lot more money for the NCAA. So I'm interested to see it because the commissioner has said that that is basically that's very high on his priority list with raising the age limit to 20. And so it's going to be quite interesting to see, because then on the flip side of all of that is now ball players are older when they're getting into the league. They already have kind of like a short lifespan, I guess that you could say, as far as your career, a short career span already. And we kind of touched on this a little bit last night, yesterday in the podcast with Ben, when we were discussing how, there's guys such as Buddy Hield who's coming over to the Kings from the Pelicans. He's 24 years old versus you compare him to DeMarcus Cousins and Anthony Davis, who are also in that 23, 24, 25 age bracket, but have been in the league for years. DeMarcus is a 3-time All-Star already, whereas Buddy Hield is a rookie. So there's a difference in their NBA experience, even though they are at the same age bracket. So that's going to be quite interesting too, because negotiating a deal when you're an older guy with a little bit of experience in the NBA versus a semi-old guy, but who's been in the league for a while, who's a veteran of the league, who's been tried and true, is different. Negotiating with a 29-year-old sounds a lot better than negotiating with a 30 or 31-year-old who's been in the league for the same amount of time as that 29-year-old. So it's going to be quite interesting to see. We'll see. It could happen as soon as within this agreement in 2017. It could be, fairly early that we see this age change as well. So we will see what happens. Back then the NBA players didn't want to, push that limit even to 19, but they did get, that was part of the agreement. They bargained for other things, so that kind of took a hit. So I'm interested to see what offers will get put on the table in order to boost up the age limit to 20, because I know that there are a lot of players that are not going to be down for that one either. So with that, we are going to take it to our last and final break. You are listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. I'm Pauline, and I will be right back.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast, dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. So that's enough of basketball talk for now. And so we're going to flip it over to the football side of things. So the Miami Dolphins have reportedly traded with the Jacksonville Jaguars to acquire Julius Thomas, a tight end. He has a tight end, excuse me, Julius Thomas, in exchange for a late round 2017 draft pick for the exchange. Okay, so it's most likely going to be, it's looking like a 7th round pick, adding that Julius Thomas is also going to be in Miami as early as today for a physical. So that trade has reportedly already happened. It's set to go. Now, the thing is that Julius Thomas had to take a major pay cut as part of this deal. However, so the cap for 2017 is 8.3 million, whereas 2018 it'll be 9.8 mil, and then following up with 2019 with a $10.3 million. So $10.3 million, excuse me. And he will be able to earn back a lot of the money that he took a cut from through incentives if he continues to play at the level as which they're expecting him to play. Now, this has come amidst the reports and rumors and everything that the Dolphins and Jags were going to be agreeing to a deal that would send left tackle Brandon Albert to Jacksonville, but that hasn't been quite finalized yet. So they are still working on a swap, which, may include as well Brandon Albert. So we'll have to keep you guys updated on that as well. And so it's looking really good for the Dolphins because they really need another, catcher. They need a tight end that's going to give them some depth as well. They have wide receivers Jarvis Landry, Devontae Parker, as well as Kenny Stills, who all had, over 700 receiving yards this past season. Their tight end Deion Sims also, he had just 256 yards, whereas their other tight end Jordan Cameron only had 60 in 3 games. He did suffer from a lot of injuries this past season, so they are going to get some welcomed depth on the chart. So, and just to give you kind of a look at what Julius Thomas brings to the table. So these past 2 years with with the Jags, he has played 21 games. He's caught 76 passes. 9 of those were touchdown catches. So he's bringing a lot, whereas they really are looking at his previous years as well. So he's been in the league for 5 seasons. He's been in the NFL for 5 seasons, but in 2013, 2014 were probably his best years in the league, where he was playing with Denver, the Broncos, and each of those seasons he caught 12 touchdown passes apiece. So they're definitely looking at that. And looking at what he brings to the table, like I said, as a tight end and what he can do for them. I'm sure they're very, very excited for that and what he can bring. So I'm looking forward to it. And, this is going to be him reuniting with his old offensive coordinator. And we'll see. I'm sure that the Jags are hoping, praying that he's going to bring in those, touchdowns again, where he's 10 plus for the season. So we will definitely see how that goes and keep you guys updated as, some more trades happen in this off season as we prepare for the NFL draft, which I love the NFL draft. I watch the NFL draft probably every year. It's going to be a lot of fun. I just love to see what moves people are making and why they're making them. So anyway, moving on to some more talk in the NFL. So you guys may have heard of the Pittsburgh Steelers assistant coach Joey Porter and the kind of scuffle that he got into last month with a bouncer at a bar, as well as a police officer. And so he was originally charged with aggravated assault and some other charges. However, because he, I guess, allegedly grabbed the officer's wrist and, after a bouncer denied him entrance into the bar. So not quite sure what else he did, what else he said, and things like that. But the district attorney has dropped all the charges except for disorderly conduct and public drunkenness citations, saying that the surveillance video didn't support the other charges, and that after the video it was not enough to support the more severe charges. And so he is set to plead guilty actually today, Tuesday. His lawyer, his attorney, has said that he's going to be pleading guilty today. The citation carries up to 90 days in jail, and a $500 fine. So, depending on, we'll see, because that is definitely what I guess you could say the law side has to say with it, the court of, the Department of Justice. But then there's also the personal conduct policy under the league. So now with the NFL, he may also receive some more disciplinary actions against him. So, and especially he's a non-player, so he doesn't have a union protection, and he's held to a really high standard. So a lot of times, no matter what the criminal justice process decides, there's also the NFL can disregard that outcome and, kind of issue their own sanctions against him. So a suspension could still be possible for Coach Porter, as well as, it could be even more than that if they deem it more, or they could just leave it alone. We'll see, because they did say that they will, the NFL has said that they are going to take a look at everything, including the video that that was brought up in the court of law as well, and kind of see what would have potentially made them suggest aggravated assault charges in the beginning. So that's going to be quite interesting to see what the outcome of this is going to be as well. So, we just got to stop putting our hands on people and stop being so aggressive towards others. I don't know. Maybe he was just perhaps upset that they didn't recognize him and wouldn't let him in. But I don't know. The man was just doing his job. The bouncer was just doing his job. So we will see what happens with that. And hopefully this is a good lesson for all of us to learn from, so that we don't get in trouble, not only with the, Department of Justice, the Justice Department, but not also get in trouble with our jobs as well, because it can affect your money now. So anyways, with that is going to do it for this episode of the podcast. You're listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. I'm getting ready to go record basketball right after this. So I will talk to you guys. I'm going to be back in the studio on Thursday. Ben will be back tomorrow to give you guys an update in all things sports. So we will talk to you guys next time.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Health and Wellness Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.